Exposed. How I transformed from junior staff to client and fired the HR team in a surprising turn. Mike paced the small, dim office, the fluorescent lights flickering like his dreams. At 29, he felt like a ghost haunting the halls of the architectural firm that had become his prison. The walls, once filled with idealistic hope, now closed in around him, suffocating his ambition. Every chuckle and whispered exchange among the HR team was a reminder of the favoritism and nepotism that entrenched the toxic culture. He wondered, could he ever break free from their smothering grip? The weight of family legacy pressed heavily on him. His father, a beloved town planner, had instilled values of hard work, integrity, and perseverance, but how could he honor that legacy while being trapped in a place where those very principles were mocked? The rain tapped against the window, mirroring the internal storm brewing within him. He envisioned his father's proud smile, only now it felt like an unreachable star, fading in the gray sky of his reality. It was amidst this frustrating grayness that he stumbled upon a design concept, an idea that could revitalize the town square. Mike put his heart and soul into this proposal, poring over every detail as if it were a love letter to the community. But when he presented it, the HR team erupted in scornful laughter. Their dismissive judgments sliced through him like a knife, leaving him feeling irrelevant and small. This betrayal ignited a new fire, however, a deep-seated determination to make his voice heard. No matter the cost. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. His resolve intensified when he stumbled upon a hidden scandal within the firm, implicating the HR team in corruption that made his skin crawl. Ravaged with anger, he pictured his father's face, his values twisted into a perverse joke. Mike threw himself into gathering evidence. Each document he compiled felt like a brick taken from the weight on his chest. He wouldn't just be a mere employee. He could expose the rot. The fight didn't come without consequences. As he climbed his way through ideas and pitches that breathed life into the firm's faltering projects, he gained an unlikely ally, a powerful client who saw merit beyond the shallow assessment of his workplace. But with this surge of momentum, the HR team's threats escalated, their hostile whispers filling the once vibrant halls with dread. They worked tirelessly to erase his reputation, and yet, with each taunt, the spark within him grew hotter. Standing on the edge of a towering decision, Mike grappled with a brewing confrontation. Each piece of incriminating evidence he gathered told a story of deception, of loyalty betrayed, of a fight to reclaim both his family's legacy and his own dignity. He hesitated now, staring into the abyss of uncertainty. This battle wasn't just for revenge, it was for recognition, for a chance to stand for what was right in a world that had silenced him. As he prepared to step into confrontation, a crushing thought settled inside him. Would this lead to liberation or complete annihilation? The storm brewed outside, matching the tempest within. In that moment he was alive with possibility and dread, teetering on the precipice of a life-changing decision, anxious for resolution yet braced for the turbulent storm ahead. Mike's breath quickened as he gripped the folder of evidence tightly in his hands. The prospect of confronting the HR team sent a chill down his spine, sparking a visceral fight-or-flight response. But he had practiced this moment in his mind countless times, each scenario fueling his rage and resolve. The firm had become a stage, and he was finally ready to play his part not as a victim but as an informed challenger. His mind raced back to the times he had second-guessed his capabilities. How many times had he silenced his own voice, allowing the HR team to dictate not just his work, but his self-worth? No more. He spent nights poring over design principles, refining not just his craft but his belief in what he was capable of doing. The empty corridor whispered reminders of past failures, yet now it echoed with the promise of triumph. As he approached the HR office, adrenaline coursed through his veins. He hesitated momentarily, questioning if this was the right step. But the thought of his father, of the values he cherished, steadied him. Mike could no longer be a ghost in these halls. He was determined to carve a new space for himself, one forged through honesty and courage. The door creaked as he entered, the atmosphere thick with unspoken tension. The HR team sat around the polished table, their eyes narrowing as Mike approached. Dismissiveness cloaked them like a protective shield, but Mike saw through it. They were cornered animals, sensing that their grip on power was slipping. "Mike, to what do we owe this unexpected visit?" sneered Sarah, the lead HR representative, breaking the silence. Her voice dripped with condescension, but Mike stood his ground, focusing on the folder in his grasp. "I'm here to talk about the corruption happening within this firm," he said, his voice steady yet firm. A pause followed, thick with disbelief. "You think you can just waltz in here and accuse us of anything?" Tim, another HR rep, scoffed, a hint of discomfort flickering across his face, but the mention of corruption triggered a ripple of unease amongst them. Mike launched into his well-prepared statements, revealing details that struck closer to home than any of them anticipated. He cited documents, the very ones that had been swept under the rug, ones detailing shady dealings conducted in the shadows of the firm. As he spoke, he watched their reactions carefully. The initial bravado began to wither. Their confidence cracked, revealing the panic simmering beneath their veneer. It was clear. They had never expected Mike to gather evidence, let alone confront them in their stronghold. "Enough of this," Sarah finally snapped, her mask of superiority slipping as she struggled to regain control. "You're overstepping, Mike. Do you really think the client will take your side?" The acknowledgement of his client brought a rush of empowerment. "They already have. This proposal isn't just a paper. It's a reflection of the future we can build together, a future free of your corruption." In the shadow of her fear, Mike saw his own determination emerging, unyielding and fierce. He had moved from passive observer to active participant in his fate, transforming humiliation into righteousness. "Your threats mean nothing anymore," he declared, feeling the weight of every insult they had ever cast upon him lift away. "I'll take this to management if necessary. The truth will come out." As he turned to leave, heart pounding and breathless with adrenaline, he felt a newfound strength course through him. His journey wasn't just about survival. It was about justice for those silenced and the legacy he sought to uphold. But just as he reached the door, Sarah's voice called out, low and steady with venom. "You will regret this, Mike. You think you have allies, but alliances change quickly in this world." The warning hung in the air, a sinister reminder that he was stepping onto a battlefield fraught with unseen danger. Realization struck him. This was no longer just about confronting the HR team. It was a declaration of war, a war that would test not only his resolve but the very foundations of his professional identity. As he walked away, a question echoed through his mind. Was he truly prepared to uncover the depths of deception, forgoing security for the uncertain tides of truth? With each step he answered that question anew, igniting a fierce determination to not back down. The storm had arrived. His confrontations were only just beginning. Mike stepped into the stark light of the hallway, his pulse still racing from the confrontation. The HR office felt like a haunted chamber behind him, but he couldn't afford to dwell on it. Each stride forward propelled him deeper into his commitment to change the tides at the firm. Questions fluttered in Mike's mind as he continued down the corridor. How would he be received by his colleagues after such a bold act? Would they see him as a traitor or a warrior? The weight of uncertainty hovered overhead, yet a glimmer of hope nestled within. The act of standing up had unlocked something dormant inside him. It was a catalyst sparking the beginning of a fierce metamorphosis. Back at his desk, the chaos of meetings and deadlines swirled around him, but he felt a newfound clarity. Every discussion now turned into an opportunity to voice his insights, to reclaim his agency among peers. The vibrant camaraderie he once sought began to form, as whispers of his confrontation made their way through the grapevine. Microphone in hand during the team's afternoon meeting, he recognized the hesitant glance of a colleague who always shied away from conflict. "Mike," she said, her voice wavering slightly, "was it really worth risking your job?" "More than worth it," he replied, the strength of his resolve emerging once again. "We can't keep pretending things are fine. The truth may threaten our comfort, but it is a critical pathway to a better workplace for all of us." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room, igniting nervous laughter and emboldening words. It was exhilarating, each affirmation breathing life into a community that had been stagnated by fear. Mike seized the moment, outlining ideas for an open forum where staff could discuss workplace grievances without the looming specter of retribution. The initiative was met with cautious enthusiasm, yet not everyone embraced the shift. Sarah's warnings echoed in Mike's ears like the distant sound of thunder. He knew her influence didn't just end with HR. Alliances remained fluid, and power plays were being constructed as he spoke. Days turned into a week, and rumors of his proposals circulated like wildfire, splitting the firm dynamically. Some colleagues approached him, eyes alight with admiration, while others shadowed their skepticism and outright denial. Yet Mike felt the varied reactions only solidified his stance. He began to invest further in his professional development, seeking mentorship from respected figures in the industry. Every early morning brought fresh opportunities for learning, webinars on negotiation, courses on leadership principles. The landscape of his profession stretched wide ahead, and for the first time, he pursued growth strategically, absorbing lessons that fortified his resilience. Despite the momentum he was gathering, the breathing space remained laced with tension each time he walked past the HR office. Their stares felt less curative and more calculating, waiting for an opportune moment to take action. He could sense their efforts to undermine him, and wondered how far they would go to protect their authority. His heart raced with trepidation as he received news of an impending meeting with the firm's upper management regarding the changes he had proposed. The implications of voicing his ideas in front of the decision-makers and presenting his case for reform sent shivers of excitement and dread through him. As the meeting drew closer, he realized this would not just be a presentation but a crossroads. Would he continue to forge ahead into the unknown or retreat into the shadows from which he had emerged? With anticipation lurking just beneath the surface, he prepared himself. One more encounter with the establishment loomed ahead. The stakes were higher, but so too were the risks worth taking. The day had come to share his vision, but was he ready to withstand the potential backlash? The moment of truth lay just beyond the conference room doors, waiting for his arrival. Mike stood before the conference room doors, a soft hum of anxious energy swelling within him. This would demarcate a line between the old Mike and anxious follower, forever silenced by fear, and the new Mike, brimming with conviction and purpose. He straightened his back and adjusted his tie, suddenly aware that the fabric felt more than just a garment. It felt like armor as he stepped inside. The walls absorbed every bit of tension radiating from his body. The inner sanctum of upper management was an arena shrouded in seriousness, a stark contrast to the lively energy of his recent, more collaborative meetings. Mike could read the faces, their brows knitted in skepticism, the shifting glances whispering doubts. Yet he also spotted a spark of curiosity mingling with apprehension among a few familiar faces. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his voice steady despite the exhilarating rush coursing through him. He clicked through slides filled with his vision for a healthier workplace, each bullet point a testament to the courage he had summoned. As the presentation unfolded, he shared data on employee satisfaction, tangible impacts of open communication, and the suffocating grip of toxic silence that had permeated the firm for so long. Yet, beneath the facade of professionalism, his heart thudded with an impending dread. Would his arguments resonate, or would they fizzle out in the face of corporate resistance? He thought of Sarah's shadowy warnings. Her presence loomed like a specter in the far corner of his mind, a relentless reminder of the stakes involved. "Mike," a voice cut through the tension, piercing the silence like a sharpened dagger. It was Alan, the firm's chief financial officer. "You speak of transformation. What guarantees do we have that your proposals won't destabilize our current operations? Change often comes at a cost." Mike inhaled deeply, drawing not just air but the pure conviction that had propelled him this far. Every cost comes with risks, but you have to weigh them against potential gains. If we continue to ignore our culture of fear, we will lose our top talent and clients who value openness. The cost of doing nothing is higher. Silence fell heavy in the room. The weight of his words clung tightly like static. Mike could feel his confidence teetering on the edge of their judgment. Was he pushing too hard, or simply pushing enough? "Perhaps," chimed in Lisa, the head of operations, with an uncharacteristically supportive tone. "This could be a step towards fostering a culture where everyone feels empowered. But how do we ensure everyone participates? How do you plan to mitigate any pushback?" A flicker of hope ignited. Here was his moment to define his vision. By establishing safe forums and regular feedback mechanisms, we cultivate an environment where concerns can be aired without retaliation. Open communication is not just about speaking. It's about listening and acting together. Eyes shifted among the attendees. Some were nodding, while others remained skeptical, visibly entrenched in their entrenched power games. The contrasting feelings in the room mirrored the turbulent thoughts in Mike's mind. This wasn't just about policy changes. It was a battle for hearts and minds, not merely his but the collective ethos of the firm. As the discussion naturalized around him, he engaged and countered, dodging potential traps laid out by the opposition. With each exchange he felt the unfolding of a dynamic skill set he previously hadn't tapped into. The art of persuasion woven seamlessly with strategic thought presented him as more than just a rebel, but a thoughtful leader. Gradually, the room began to thaw. A series of questions sparked debates, and for every retort, he quickly adapted, drawing on insights from the mentorship sessions he had eagerly consumed over the past weeks. There was momentum now, and he rode the wave. Yet, the ghost of Sarah loomed, hinting at unseen forces that could retaliate. As the meeting wrapped up, Mike still sensed an ambiguous conclusion hanging in the air, neither total acceptance nor outright dismissal. What door remained halfway ajar? Would there be a reaction he hadn't anticipated from HR? With a firm yet unsteady resolve, Mike left the conference room ready to face whatever consequences awaited him. The true repercussions of his stand still loomed, shrouded in uncertainty. The real challenge was just beginning. If he was going to change the culture, the battle with the establishment was far from over. What strategies could he employ to stay ahead? Unbeknownst to him, a calculated move from HR was already in motion, one that could unravel everything he had begun to build. Mike left the conference room, his mind buzzing with a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. The realization that he had stepped into a new role, not just as an employee but as a potential change agent, was both intoxicating and terrifying. With every step toward his desk, he replayed the debates in his head, scrutinizing every word, every gesture. Had he truly swayed anyone, or had he merely opened a door that would soon slam shut? Settling into his chair, he rifled through his notes, determined to extract the lessons from the meeting. It wasn't enough to have the courage to speak up. He needed a solid plan for the path ahead. The looming question of HR's reaction weighed heavily on him. They had always been the gatekeepers of culture, and the potential for pushback lingered like a storm cloud on the horizon. To gain clarity, Mike scheduled a one-on-one with Lisa. In her support, he sensed the possibility of a powerful ally. As they met in a quieter corner of the office, he was struck by her open demeanor. "I appreciate your insights in the meeting, Mike. You have a commendable vision, but the board has its reservations. How can I help you navigate this?" This question hung in the air, an invitation to share his thoughts. "I know the road ahead won't be easy, Lisa," he started, "but I believe we can create a ripple effect. If we can begin with workshops that emphasize communication and collaboration, we could start shifting the culture at a grassroots level." Lisa nodded thoughtfully. "That can certainly set the groundwork for change. However, we also need to manage expectations from upper management. They will want to see immediate results." "Understood," Mike replied, his throat tightening. "I could provide metrics on employee engagement and satisfaction to showcase progress. They'll need concrete data to feel comfortable." The two brainstormed strategies for implementation, diving deeper into discussions about the possible resistance they might face. Mike explored the importance of data and dialogue, and for the first time he saw a tangible path forward. Yet, as they collaborated, doubt crept back in like an unwelcome guest. What if HR interpreted these efforts as rebellion? Those concerns followed him back to his desk, where the atmosphere felt increasingly charged. As the day wore on, he noticed the pointed glances from some coworkers, particularly Sarah. The whisper of skepticism turned into an outright murmur, and it was clear that the shockwaves of his presentation had begun to ripple through the office. Deciding not to shy away from confrontation, Mike approached Sarah during lunch. "Hey, I wanted to take a moment to talk about the presentation. I noticed you were distant during the discussion. Is there something you'd like to share?" Her gaze flicked toward him, and he caught a flash of vulnerability beneath her guarded demeanor. "I'm just concerned, Mike. Change isn't easy. People are set in their ways. You have no idea the backlash that can come from rattling the cage. Then let us stand together against it, Mike encouraged, tapping into his newfound conviction. If we can create a united front, it'll show that this isn't just me pushing against the tide. It's a collective effort for improvement. She hesitated but then nodded slowly, an acknowledgement of their shared apprehension. I'll support your efforts, but we must be prepared for consequences. There are people who might be combative. Fueled by a mix of apprehension and excitement, Mike returned to his desk, his heart racing with anticipation and uncertainty. He had begun to find his footing as a leader, but the establishment's defenses were formidable. The following days brought a series of small victories: a successful workshop here, enthusiastic employee feedback there, but whispers grew louder within the office, echoing Sarah's warnings. There was a buzz in HR, and he could sense the unraveling tension tightening around him. Just as he felt he might catch a break, he received a chilling email notification. A request to meet with HR. The subject line screamed urgency and, in that moment, the stakes ignited his urgency to resist retreating into avoidance. What did they want to discuss? Had his efforts already drawn scrutiny? The reality crashed into him. He was no longer just navigating his fears. He was potentially jeopardizing everything he had just built. What awaited him in that meeting room? Would the backlash emerge as a challenge or a crucible of growth? He steeled himself, ready to confront whatever truth lay ahead. As Mike approached the HR department, the air grew dense with uncertainty. His heart thudded with every step, echoing in his mind like a clamor of impending judgment. He had braced himself for confrontation, yet doubt still flickered like shadows in the recesses of his mind. Had he overstepped? Was he merely another footnote in the corporate landscape, destined to be dismissed? The HR office door loomed before him, a threshold to the unknown. He paused for a moment to breathe, reminding himself of the groundwork he had laid. The workshops, the employee feedback, these efforts were not just noise. They were a foundation for lasting change. He pushed the door open, stepping into a room that seemed to hum with unspoken tension. "Mike, thank you for coming," said Angela, the head of HR. Her tone a carefully calibrated blend of professionalism and concern. Seated beside her was Tom, a senior manager whose glare felt like a scrutinized spotlight. "Of course," Mike replied, his voice steadier than he felt. "I'm eager to discuss our initiatives." "Let us be honest," Angela began, her fingers poised in a steeple framing her expression. "We need to talk about the workshops and the cultural shifts you've been proposing. There's been significant feedback, mostly unfavorable." "Unfavorable?" He resisted the urge to bristle. "What feedback?" Those who attended had shown interest, expressed excitement. "I've received positive responses. Employees want to engage, they want to feel heard." Tom interjected, "But do you understand the implications of these changes? When you push for grassroots initiatives, people might feel destabilized. Not every employee is ready for what you suggest, Mike. There's concern over your approach, bordering on insubordination in some circles." This word stung. Insubordination felt severe considering his intent was to uplift, not undermine. "I'm trying to encourage discussions that have been absent in our culture," he pressed. "Isn't that what we all want? To improve engagement?" Angela's expression softened slightly, but her authority remained intact. "And we appreciate your passion. However, it needs to be tempered with an understanding of our established hierarchies and processes. The board wants stability more than change." He felt the weight of that word stability as if it were a chain binding him to the status quo. "Stability without growth is stagnation," he countered, surprising even himself with the conviction in his voice. "If you never question how things are done, how will you know if they can be improved?" The words hung in the charged atmosphere. He recognized the flicker of interest in Angela's eyes, but Tom's expression hardened, a wall against any perceived threat. "You need to tread carefully, Mike. There may be consequences for this push to innovate that you're leading. Consider your position." "Consider my position?" Mike echoed, a mix of indignation and clarity washing over him. "I've been considering nothing but that. The culture won't shift overnight, but isn't it worth the risk if we can create a truly engaging environment?" Angela leaned forward slightly, her brow furrowed. "So what do you suggest?" "You have our attention. but their essay fine line between ambition and recklessness. An idea sparked as he spoke. Instead of seeing this as a rebellious initiative, let us create a task force involving employees from different departments. They could guide changes from within, helping HR align with the workforce. His pulse quickened, excitement pooling in the depths of uncertainty. Interesting proposition, but Tom began, his voice suspiciously cautious, we'll need to vet anyone involved. This cannot become a battleground for dissent. The thrill of advocacy surged through Mike. To be at the table, shaping his own narrative was intoxicating. Absolutely, but if we surround ourselves with supports from within, we can ensure the message remains constructive. Their eyes met, both evaluating the potential implications of his words. Angela, despite her reservations, seemed to weigh the merit. Tom remained skeptical, but Mike felt a shift. This was the territory he once feared. Now morphing into a realm of opportunity. As they discussed the logistics, he could feel a sense of empowerment taking root. He wasn't merely defending past actions. He was actively constructing a bridge toward acceptance. Yet lingering suspicions still echoed. Were his colleagues truly ready for this evolution? Or would the backlash only grow fiercer? As the meeting concluded, an unexpected challenge emerged in Mike's mind. He also understood that gaining the upper hand would require navigating tense waters. The path ahead seemed fraught with peril, but amidst the tension, he sensed a quiet strength establishing itself with this newfound purpose. Though uncertainty loomed, Mike felt the pull of his ambition guiding him toward a forthcoming conflict. As he set his course, the question lingered. Would he have allies, or would he find himself wading alone in turbulent waters? The stakes had never felt higher. What awaited him as he continued to disrupt the status quo? As Mike left the HR office, a whirlwind of thoughts raced through him. The exchange with Angela and Tom reverberated in his mind, urging him to reconsider the course he had set. Yet, beneath the uncertainty existed an exhilarating undercurrent of empowerment. He wasn't merely reacting to their skepticism. He was initiating a strategy well beyond passive acceptance. Unsure of where the path would lead, he felt a strange duality, a mix of trepidation and burgeoning determination swirling in the pit of his stomach. He navigated the familiar streets back to his department, where the sight of his desk stirred memories of mundane routine. But now the drab walls felt less like confines and more like canvases, opportunities waiting for strokes of change. Determined to act, Mike called for a meeting with the team that had participated in his workshops. He envisioned a collaborative forum where ideas could percolate freely, yet meticulously shaped by the voices of those who felt disconnected from HR's decisions. As he drafted an agenda, he made a conscious decision to balance his ambitious ideas with a strategic approach, one that honored the concerns voiced in the HR meeting. The team gathered, a collective nervous energy palpable in the air. As he stood up to speak, he caught the glances of his colleagues, some hopeful and others skeptical. I appreciate everyone coming together, he began, choosing his words deliberately. After reflecting on my recent meetings, I believe now is the time for us to take charge of our workplace culture. Instead of focusing solely on what HR provides, let us identify what we need as a team. A brief yet charged silence followed. He could feel the tension as his coworkers processed his call to action. One of them, Jenna, spoke up. Are we really going to challenge HR? What if they push back? Her question resonated. Mike felt the weight of the possibility that the pressure could build up once more from the higher-ups. He had to respond with both honesty and assurance. We must expect resistance, but it's critical we articulate what we truly want. We can reshape our narrative by being proactive. We'll create solutions rather than merely highlighting problems. As they engaged in discussions, brainstorming sessions took root. Ideas sprouted: flexible working conditions, more inclusive feedback channels, transparent acknowledgement of contributions. Each suggestion was a brick laid on the foundation they were building together. It felt transformative. But in crafting this new initiative amid burgeoning optimism, Mike couldn't shake the gnawing sense of vulnerability. Could he maintain their enthusiasm when faced with inevitable pushback from management? Days passed, and the momentum rested between cautious optimism and mounting tension. Mike spent late evenings immersed in preparations, drafting proposals to present to HR. As he pored over documents, he uncovered a hidden talent for persuasive writing. He hadn't recognized before each carefully chosen word, a brushstroke cultivating his narrative voice. There was power in articulating a vision, and he was committed to honing that skill. However, doubt seeped in just as rapidly. What if they dismissed his efforts as a pet project? What if Tom was right, and this endeavor turned into a battleground for dissent? Just as he was about to call a second team meeting, an email landed in his inbox with the subject line, "Urgent, immediate HR review meeting." The words sparked an avalanche of anxiety as he opened it. An agenda outlining grievances regarding the movement he had started, concerns about the task force, and requests for more oversight rested like a heavy shroud over his ambitions. This unforeseen turn could change everything. His heart raced, the thrill of challenge igniting a fierce resolve within him. The integrity of his vision felt jeopardized, and it was now or never. Would he instinctively retreat, hide behind the veil of compliance, or rise to confront the scrutiny head-on, armed with the very change he sought to implement? The clock was ticking, and clarity washed over him. If he truly wanted to transform the workplace into a haven of engagement, he needed to prepare for a confrontation. He wouldn't just defend his position. He would have to articulate a compelling case for change, embracing his newfound voice. With inbox open and resolve steeled, Mike knew the next chapter was about to unfold. The real fight for his personal and professional evolution was about to begin. Would he emerge from this meeting with his vision intact, or would it force him to reevaluate everything he fought for? Days melded into restless nights as Mike prepared for the impending HR meeting, the weight of expectation pressing against his chest. He had meticulously outlined his thoughts, backing them with data gathered from the team's feedback sessions. Each bullet point was fortified by the authenticity of collaborative input, something he knew HR would struggle to dismiss. Yet unease gnawed at him. Was he truly ready to defend this initiative? What if the very essence of his intentions was twisted to fit a narrative of rebellion? Standing before the mirror, he practiced his delivery, watching the reflection of a man teetering on the edge of self-assertion and self-doubt. The day of the meeting arrived, and each tick of the clock seemed a cruel reminder of time slipping away. As he walked into the sterile conference room, the walls felt claustrophobic, trapping him in a vortex of scrutiny. He glimpsed the faces of HR Angela and Tom, prominent among them, muffled expressions hinting at skepticism or judgment ready to surface. "Thank you all for being here today," Mike started, his voice steadier than he felt. He laid out the purpose of the meeting succinctly, heart racing at the prospect of defending the changes he envisioned. "I believe we have an opportunity, not just to voice grievances but to create actionable solutions that enhance our workplace culture." A slight narrowing of Tom's eyes met his introduction, signaling doubt. Mike pressed forward, presenting the data on employee engagement, and suggesting that a proactive approach could bridge the existing gaps. As he spoke, an odd blend of excitement and fear coursed through him. Despite his nerves, a sense of clarity crystallized with every word spoken. However, he continued, feeling the room tense like a coiled spring. "It's crucial we embrace open dialogue. This isn't just about us being heard. It's about how HR can evolve to better support us." Angela interjected before he could elaborate further. "Mike, these are commendable intentions, but aren't you concerned that challenging established norms could create discord? The task force you describe seems ambitious, perhaps even unrealistic." Her question cut deep, not into his argument but into the heart of his resolve. Would nobody see how vital the changes were? He had anticipated pushback, yet the bluntness of her skepticism threatened to unravel his plans. "I recognize that change is met with resistance, and that's the very point," he rebutted, frustration fueling his conviction. "If we don't speak up and advocate for what we need, we remain stagnant cogs in a system that has forgotten the people within it." As the dialogue unfolded, an intense exchange began, forcing him to dance between fact and emotion. Each response sharpened his resolve further, revealing a hidden aspect of his personality and unexpected tenacity that surprised even him as he countered arguments and painted a vision of what a transformed workplace could look like. Yet, every moment of triumph was shadowed by a haunting question: was he prepared for the consequences of this confrontation? Hours later, as the meeting dragged on, he concluded with a sense of burgeoning hope. "I urge HR to partner with us, not just as overseers but as collaborators willing to innovate towards meaningful change. Together we can redefine workplace culture, not merely as a policy but as a living, breathing entity." The meeting ended uneasily, charged with friction but also a glimmer of potential. He left with his heart pounding, knowing he had taken a decisive step, yet sensing he was now also a target. And the days following, Mike's anxiety mounted as silence enveloped him. Would HR take the bait, unraveling the intricate web of change he had woven? As he returned to his desk, an unexpected message pinged in his inbox, an invitation for a follow-up discussion with HR. Suddenly, the gravity of his earlier resolve rushed back. The stakes had risen. This wasn't just about transforming the workplace but liberating both himself and his colleagues from the shackles of complacency. The pivotal moment was upon him. How would he prepare for this next encounter? And could he harness his newfound confidence to withstand any backlash that lay ahead? The time had come to face the repercussions head-on. The morning of the follow-up meeting, Mike's mind buzzed with conflicting thoughts. He had spent the night rehearsing possible scenarios, playing out dialogues in his head, contemplating each response. A mix of excitement and dread settled over him like a heavy fog. This was no longer just a casual conversation. It was a trial of his resolve, a chance to solidify his vision or perhaps dismantle it. As he settled into his seat at the conference table, he noticed a palpable tension in the room. Angela's and Tom's expressions were inscrutable, an impenetrable wall of professionalism. "Thank you for coming in again, Mike," Angela began, breaking the silence but not the unease. The familiarity of the surroundings that had once felt stifling now invigorated him. "Thank you for the opportunity to continue our conversation," Mike replied, his voice steady, albeit slightly strained. He leaned forward, wanting to close the invisible distance caused by the uncertainty that lingered in the air. "Last time you made some passionate points about workplace culture," Tom interjected, a hint of skepticism lacing his tone. "We must consider, however, the existing framework and why certain policies are in place." Of course. The audacity of these established norms gnawed at him. There was no better moment to outline how tradition could stifle innovation. Yet the right words faltered on his lips, like a car stalling before a steep hill. "Let us be clear," Mike began, feeling the tingling pulse of determination urging him on. "Tradition isn't a shield to protect us from change. It becomes a cage. I understand the reason those policies exist, but I also believe they limit our potential. Engaging with employees through channels that don't work for us isn't the answer. We need to create a new narrative, one that champions inclusivity and adaptation." Angela's eyebrow arched, but he pressed on, the flame of his resolve igniting brighter within. Despite their seasoned experience, he sensed a shift. His words echoed with truth, yet he was reminded of the risks, the possibility of being dismissed, of facing consequences. Was he truly ready to confront that potential fallout? Resistance to change is understandable, but defending the status quo is exactly what got us into this predicament, Mike continued, referencing the downturn in morale. "What I'm proposing is a collaborative effort where HR engages with employees, not merely to govern, but to understand and act. Look at the feedback we've gathered. It speaks volumes about our current pain points." As he reviewed the data he'd prepared, he caught Angela's hesitant nod, a flicker of interest breaking through her stoic facade. Perhaps she was reconsidering, perhaps not. But in that instant, Mike discovered another facet of his character. He was developing the strength to pivot, to adapt, and to engage with these power brokers instead of cowering in their shadow. The conversation shifted back and forth, and though hurdles continued to emerge, Mike began to feel more like a partner rather than a challenger. They discussed strategies, timelines, and the logistics involved in enacting new policies, and with each exchange his confidence swelled. Yet as the meeting wrapped up, a question lingered in the back of his mind: would the conversation translate to real action? And crucially, how far was he willing to go, not just for himself, but for his colleagues who depended on him to initiate this change? The parting words of Angela lingered in his thoughts like a haunting refrain. "We'll get back to you on this." It was far from confirmation, yet fueled by a newfound sense of agency. He realized he had begun to carve a space for himself, a space that could lead to profound evolution, not just for himself, but for their entire workplace. Returning to his desk, he felt empowered. It was a small victory, yet enough to keep pushing him forward. But there was no resting just yet. He glanced around the office, feeling the weight of expectation from his colleagues. They had witnessed his growth, his transformation from a passive participant to an assertive advocate. The true challenge was still ahead. Turning these discussions into tangible changes meant going beyond dialogue. It meant strategy, execution, and confronting the pushback that was sure to come. What would his next step be? How would he prepare for and push against the resistance he feared might rise as he pushed harder for change? The moment of revelation settled in his gut like a stone. The battle had just begun, and Mike was ready to fight. He drew a deep breath, anticipation buzzing in the air. Could he rally enough support to implement the changes he envisioned? In the weeks that followed the pivotal meeting with HR, Mike felt both the weight of anticipation and the spark of determination coursing through his veins. He had gone from being a silent observer to an active participant in reshaping the workplace culture. The time had come to prove that his ambitions were not just wishes but a viable future for the firm. He started by organizing a follow-up meeting with the task force, a diverse team of employees from various departments who had selected to champion this initiative. In the comfort of their shared commitment, Mike sensed a collaborative spirit blooming, eager to tackle issues that had long been festering beneath the surface. Today we'll focus on concrete actions, he declared, standing confidently before his peers. Let us define clear objectives to enhance communication and engagement. The room buzzed with energy as ideas flowed freely, each suggestion building on the next. This was the moment he had envisioned, a true coalition formed from the very fabric of the organization. As the group discussed potential workshop topics and frameworks for conversational platforms, Mike felt the importance of aligning these initiatives with measurable metrics to showcase progress. They drafted proposals that would emphasize employee feedback and engagement, creating an effective loop for continuous improvement and dialogue. With passion ignited, Mike took the lead in presenting these plans to upper management. He meticulously prepared, ensuring every statistic told a compelling story of the positive impact of proactive engagement practices on morale and productivity. He wasn't just advocating for change. He was backing it with undeniable data that aligned with business goals. On the day of the presentation, he stepped into the conference room, channels of nerves rippling through him, but this time grounded by solid preparation. As he began his pitch, he noticed the subtle shifts in the faces around the table. Skepticism gave way to curiosity. By implementing these proposed workshops and feedback forums, we can create an evolving workplace culture, he explained, passing around a comprehensive report infused with insights from the task force. This engagement will not only empower employees, but ultimately improve retention rates and client satisfaction. Our growth hinges on a thriving, connected workplace. After a heated discussion, silence fell, revealing a thoughtful atmosphere. The questions posed were inquisitive rather than combative, marking a critical inflection point in their perception of his advocacy. Angela spoke up first. You've articulated a strong case, Mike. These metrics will play a role in guiding decision-making processes moving forward. Encouraged by her support, Tom added, we are open to trialing these workshops on a pilot basis for the next quarter, and seeing where it leads us. The moment washed over Mike like a wave of validation, confirming not only his abilities, but also the resilience he had cultivated. This was a definitive shift, a combination of collaborative leadership and authentic advocacy, leading to substantial change. With this approval, an urgency sparked within him to follow through effectively. He went back to his team, rallying them for the upcoming initiative launch. They planned the workshops with care, focusing on creating an environment where everyone felt safe to share. This newfound sense of camaraderie lingered in the air, as they organized a kickoff event to emphasize the importance of open dialogue. As the pilot program commenced, Mike could feel the atmosphere transforming. Colleagues who had once been wary began to engage actively, sharing insights and developing greater rapport. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, and slowly, the office began to buzz with a sense of togetherness. In direct contrast to the poisonous atmosphere he had experienced months before, Mike was now surrounded by enthusiastic discussions, laughter, and constructive collaboration. He had conquered his fears, proving to himself that he could make waves of change resonate deeply within the firm. Then came the moment of immense fulfillment, one that Mike had envisioned from the beginning. At an all-staff meeting, he was called to the stage to share the success of the program, visibly transforming the firm's culture. As employees rose in applause, he felt anchored in confidence. Mike's journey culminated when upper management recognized him formally for his contributions, promoting him to a role where he could further instigate positive change. The position was more than just a title, it was a testament to his growth, a symbol of the shift from a timid junior staff member to someone who could shape the organization's future. In that moment, the vibrant realization struck him. This was his legacy, a testament to hard work and innovation that would resonate through the architecture of not just the firm, but the community they served. His father would be proud, and he felt an overwhelming wave of accomplishment wash over him. Through every hurdle and challenge, Mike had emerged transformed, a leader who didn't merely react to adversity but confronted it with courage and conviction. He had fired up his own life's ambitions while igniting hope in others, proving that through perseverance anyone could unlock their full potential. The call to action was clear. His journey validated the idea that each individual's voice mattered in the corporate landscape. And now, as Mike looked ahead, he was determined to continue that work both for himself and for everyone who felt unheard. This story of transformation demands your engagement. You need to subscribe now to follow more emotional journeys of growth and transformation. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm, because your support truly matters. Comment your thoughts, reactions, and theories about Mike's evolution. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how transformation can redefine not just careers but lives. This is the moment to show your support.